Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and we have a great show in store for you today, this evening. Good evening, Truth Warriors and Myth Busters. My guest today is John Vinson, who is the president of the, American Immigration Control Foundation. But before I bring on my guest, I want to talk about a few things. I mean, this last week has been very dramatic politically. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, so much is going on. It's so exciting, actually. It's so exciting. It's like, I feel like saying, finally the truth comes out regarding this Russia-Trump collusion or scandal or whatever you want. Yeah, that's what they call it. Trump-Russia scandal. I feel like finally the truth has come out on this, right? What is it? I mean, Winston Churchill said the truth goes halfway around the world before, no, I said it wrong. A lie goes halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put on its shoes in the morning or something like that. You guys know that expression, right? Well, it's like finally, I feel like finally the truth has come out, and it's not, hey folks, it's not a Trump-Russia scandal. What is it? It's a Hillary-Russia scandal, isn't it? I mean, come on. This woman was like, what did she do? She funneled money to a law firm that hired a former MI6 intelligence agent to find out some dirt, to make up some dirt, to find some slimy, salacious material on Trump. And the issue is it's phony, it's fake, it's not real. It's like phony information. It's fictitious information. She paid a law firm to hire this, what is it? Fusion GPS to find dirt. Actually, she paid the law firm. What was the law firm? Perkins Coyle to hire Michael Steele, Christopher Steele to use Fusion GPS, which is known, has a reputation as being a mere like, what do you say? Like a smear, someone that degrades, what is the word I'm looking for? Someone that smears someone's character for pay. They're like hired for pay to do that. I mean, it's like Hillary is the one that is colluding with Russia. So that's just one thing. Then the second thing, this is the other thing. We find out about Uranium One. Now, on that first thing where, Hillary is paying for a fictitious dossier on Trump to make up stuff. Comey was the FBI agent at the time, and he was aware. He may have even assisted with getting information to Hillary. So, I mean, in that sense, don't you think he needs to be investigated or something? Come on. Now, with this other deal, this Uranium One deal, we see that, Mueller was the FBI agent during that time, right? So it's like, there's sort of like maybe some conflict of interest issues or something like that going on here, right? So then the third thing, so that's two, Hillary, her campaign, and the DNC actually funded the dossier that smeared Trump, right? Then the second thing is that then this Uranium One issue is like pay for play. There's some pay for play business going on here, right? And in fact, there has been a lot of information or an investigation into this Clinton Foundation being there for pay for play issues involved in pay for play matters, right? And one of the men that looks this up, his name is Charles Ortel, O-R-T-E-L. And let me recommend to listeners to go to Lionel Nation. You can Google that. Lionel Nation on YouTube, his YouTube channel. And in fact, he was or is a progressive, but he is really digging into the dirt regarding the Clinton Foundation. And he has this Charles Ortel, Ortel, on to just go over all these details. He's had them on quite frequently. They go over all of the details, how the Clinton Foundation is not really a charity foundation, that they have been involved in play for play. Is that how you say it? Pay for play since their inception. And so it's a good thing that the Congress has now begun investigating the Clinton Foundation. I mean, the Clinton Foundation is not a charity. We know what happened in Haiti. We know, this is another thing I want to say. Liberals, people that support the Clintons, liberals, Democrats, from where I sit, from my perspective, they don't have a leg to stand on. Because from my position, I feel like listen, no matter what you say, the Democrats have destroyed Black America. So you really don't have the moral high ground to opine on any issue whatsoever. You should not be self-righteous about being a Democrat when the Democrats have destroyed Black America. Does that make sense? That's the way I feel about it. Anyway, so the thing that we're supposed to find out tomorrow, possibly, not definitively, possibly, is whether or not who Mueller filed indictment charges for, right? The special counsel Mueller. My position is Mueller needs to recuse himself. I think most Trump supporters feel that way. Then the other thing that we're going to find out, and I think this is going to be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. The former the FBI informant, the gag order has been lifted. So now he is able to testify in front of members of Congress, not the entire Congress, but he's able to testify. And this is going to be very interesting because I listened to his attorney, Victoria Tonsing, on Fox the other day. And this FBI informant actually has tapes of conversations, presumably showing this pay-to-play perspective or situation that the Clinton Foundation was involved in. I mean, I think this is going to be very interesting. I'm actually looking forward to it. It's like something to look forward to. Do you know what I mean? So those are the issues that are going on. But right now, I think I'm going to bring on my guest. As I said, I'm very delighted to have this guest. His name is John Vinson. Mr. Vinson is the president of American Immigration Control Foundation. And, I actually met him remember, I've told you guys several times that I went back to a conference on immigration in DC last month. And, it's important for me to attend these conferences because I want to, if I'm going to talk about immigration, I have to be an expert. I have to know the data, right? I have to know everything. I have to know the history. So this is why I like having these experts on the show, because they inform me. They're getting me informed as to what's going on regarding immigration. They're giving me the history. They're giving me the data, and you couldn't ask for more, right? So I'm delighted to bring on Mr. Vinson. Mr. Vinson, are you on the line?
Hello, Kathleen. How are you?
How are you? Well,
pretty good.
Well, I'm so delighted to have you. Let's see. Why don't you tell my listeners what the American Immigration Control Foundation is and what your position is on immigration?
Well, we were founded in 1983. Our position is that America should have an immigration policy that serves America. We need a level of legal immigration that we can assimilate, and one that fits in with our national carrying capacity. Also, we should enforce immigration laws. The people of the United States pass those laws, and those laws should be enforced. We are a nation of laws, and if we cease to be that, we cease to be a nation at all. So we are taking the position that the current level of immigration we have now, the highest sustained level in our history, about more than 1 million a year ever since about 1990, is much, much too high. We need to slow it down and assimilate and take in what we have here, and also we need to enforce the laws on the books. Again, if we're a nation of laws, we need to enforce our laws. It's very simple, I think.
Right, and in fact, you're saying there's one of the videos that you have on your website called "Rule of Law America: Rule of Law or Anarchy," and that you say in that video it explains that if you there's a breakdown of law and order, you're going to have massive illegal immigration, and it's going to break down other laws. And an example of that, I just read a report, or I just saw something on Breitbart. Listen, wait, one of the things that I want to say is that, you know, Democrats and liberal media has been lying to at least Black America, probably all Americans, forever and a day, right? So, you know, why do liberals say, oh, you're listening to Breitbart? Because the liberal media has been lying, right? Does that make sense? So I just heard on Breitbart, or I just read an article on Breitbart that indicated that 44% of the DACA recipients had no valid Social Security numbers. See, this is an example of what you're saying. Break down one law, you don't abide by other laws, correct?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's so interesting with President Obama. You know, for the longest time he said, there's no way that I can decree an amnesty for illegal aliens. I just can't do it. And he cited all the laws as to why he couldn't do it. He is a lawyer. I mean, he's quite familiar with what the law says. But when push finally came to shove, when the people in his party insisted that they wanted to have an amnesty for the DACA people, he just turned on a dime and said, yes, I'm going to wave my magic dictator wand and just decree amnesty, as if what he said had no influence in the past, had no influence on him at all. I mean, that's just one of many examples of what we are experiencing in this country with the breakdown of law. I mean, under Obama, I mean, he just about got rid of all immigration law enforcement. I mean, it was really that bad. It was so funny they were calling him the deporter-in-chief. He was nothing of the kind. That was a complete lie. He put that information out to give people the idea that he was taking care of things so that he could push for an amnesty through Congress. But he turned and went to some of his Latino supporters and said, look, don't take this deporter-in-chief stuff seriously. It's not real. It's not real. He actually told those people that.
I believe it. I believe it. And in your book that you wrote, and in fact, I want to just say, you know, you and I spoke briefly. You've been at this a long while, right? You've been
a long time. I mean, we've been wandering in the wilderness many, many, many years, and I'm just hoping we're approaching the promised land now. I don't know whether we are or not. We still have the odds stacked against us to a very large extent. And you've got one essential problem. You've got the Democrats who want cheap votes and the Republicans who want cheap labor. And you have a lot of people who are taken in by cheap sentiments about huddled masses. I mean, you know, the poetry on the Statue of Liberty is moving, but at the same time, we need to think with our heads instead of our hearts if we're going to have a sensible immigration policy.
You talk about being manipulated by sentiments, but let's go back a little bit. I want to understand why you think that we may not be getting the change that you think. Things may not, you know, things may not be as they seem. You know, there's no need to necessarily feel optimistic about it. Why do you feel that way?
Well, I mean, we still have the media against us, a good part of Congress, a good part of the judiciary, and you still have this pervasive sentiment that it's somehow wrong to talk about cutting immigration because this goes against our national identity. I mean, this is just wrong. But the thing is, this is the reality that we face. I am encouraged, though, that we have a president now who is actually talking about these issues and has made definite steps toward bringing about reforms. You know, it could go either way now. It could go either way. That's the way I see it.
And so you wrote in your book in 1992, Immigration Out of Control, the Interest Against America. You write that altruism and kindness are not the motivating forces behind the nation's open door to immigration. Yeah, kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, as I say, I mean, you've got two basic motivating forces on the left. You have Democrats who want cheap votes. One of the Democrats' chief strategists, a man named Robert Kramer, he was arrested. He was convicted of tax fraud while he was in prison. He wrote a book called How Progressives Can Win. I guess being a convicted fellow doesn't disqualify you to be a top Democrat strategist. But anyway, in that book, he openly states that the Democrats get a permanent lock on American politics if they keep pushing for immigration and amnesty for illegal aliens. Basically, the strategy is just to displace the current American electorate and bring in a new electorate that doesn't really understand what America is all about and keep them unassimilated so they'll stay that way. Mm-hmm. Then on the right, you have the Republicans, the George W. Bush types who want to serve the cheap labor interest. I mean, they don't care about American workers. I mean, they just want to keep pushing down the wage level as much as possible. You know, we've had wage stagnation in this country since the early 1970s, just by interesting coincidence. That's when mass immigration began kicking in. Mm-hmm. So you got those two powerful forces again, and it's not altruism. I mean, they play on that. Both sides play on altruism, helping the poor of the world. But the fact of the matter is, we can't uplift the entire world. I mean, some people think America can play God. Well, look, I've got a message for you. We are not God. We can't save the entire world. We can take some people in. But, if we keep letting the masses of the world come into this country, we're going to be brought down to the level of the world in general. And then we're not going to be in position to help anyone, and that's going to defeat altruism.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what Chilton Wilminson says in his book, Immigration Mystique. He says, we cannot uplift the entire world by bringing much of the world here. That's a sense of arrogance and pride for us to think that way, right?
It's a terrible pride. I've studied a lot of different ethical systems, and all these systems say that one of the greatest virtues is humility, recognizing your own limitations. I mean, if you don't do that, then all kinds of evil follows, because you have an exaggerated sense of yourself. You're not in touch with reality, and you do things that are just wrong.
So, you mentioned to me before that you used to interview with Terry Anderson, who was right here at this station. So talk to me about how that, give me a little sense of that experience.
Well, Terry was just a fascinating man. He was an auto body man, and he was in Los Angeles. And he told me that when the illegal aliens started coming in, they started taking jobs from all the black people in his area. I mean, particularly the young people. He said, they couldn't get entry-level jobs, which are necessary to advance up the economic ladder. And he said that he tried to raise this issue, and he said that the Democrat leadership just wasn't interested in it at all. And I saw him testify in Congress one time. I believe the woman interviewing him was Sheila Jackson Lee.
Oh.
Yeah, and she was extremely rude to him, very just contemptuous. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Her whole attitude was, how dare you raise these issues to me?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I saw her last in September when I was in D.C. at the Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Council. I said to her, you have Barbara Jordan's old seat. And she's like, yes, let me tell you, these black politicians do not have the interests of Black America. That's just it. You can't get any plainer than that. Do you know what I mean? We, Black American, might as well forget it when they think about getting their interests met when dealing with their politicians. We need to stop voting, okay? That's my position at this point.
Most of the white politicians don't care about most white people either. I mean,
But we're not we're in dire straits. Black America is in dire straits economically. And in fact, I've discussed this before on the show. It's like for the average black family to catch up with the average white family, it will be 228 years. You see, this is dire straits. And so we need to just forget this thinking that politicians have our best interests. They have never expressed that. The
thing is, we got to control them. We just can't think, they're going to take care of us. They like us, and they have these big hearts. No, they see the light when they feel the heat. And you've got to provide that heat, make them see the light.
I like that.
Well, if if you talk about upward mobility, I've read these studies that say that kids who don't have jobs when they're teenagers usually don't do as well as people who did have jobs when they were teenagers, because when you have these entry-level jobs, you learn work habits, you learn how to get along with people, so forth. And I think this is very, very important. For example, my son got jobs doing construction, working in restaurants around here, and we don't have any significant number of illegal aliens here, so he was able to get jobs like this, and he developed a very, very good work ethic, and everyone praises him for being a hard worker, and I'm very, very pleased as a father to see this. But when you have a situation where you have all these foreign people doing jobs like cutting grass, working in fast food restaurants, these young people don't have the opportunities to get those jobs, and they just go out to the mall, lounge around, do nothing, and learn all these wasteful habits, and it just doesn't. It's not a good thing, for their future success.
Yeah, in fact, I've heard Terry. I watched one of the videos of Terry Anderson saying, back in 2000, teenagers had to speak Spanish to be able to get a job at McDonald's. Well, and now I've learned that even in, because I've heard this, even in the construction industry, folks have to speak Spanish. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what?
Well, this is America. I mean, I think we have a right in our country to set certain preferences. I mean, one being that if English is the commonly spoken language, the thing is, the mentality we have now among the elite classes is that we're basically a world society. They have this globalist outlook, and in this outlook, American citizenship doesn't mean anything. America really doesn't mean anything. We're just kind of like, just a province without any significance, a location without any significance. We're not really a country, a sovereign country in their mentality. I mean, these elites, I think identify with elites in foreign countries much, much more than they do with their own countrymen. Samuel Huntington, this professor at Harvard University, wrote a book entitled "Who Are We?" and he said that these people really have no sense of patriotism. He calls them transnationals in his book. There's another word I can think of that also starts with T, and that word is traitor. I mean, they're not loyal to this country. They don't care anything about it.
Well, I
know that's harsh sounding, but I think it's true. And someone please prove me wrong.
Well, who's are you saying? The illegal immigrants are traitors, or the politicians are?
No,
traitors?
these elites of our society.
Oh yeah.
People at the highest levels. Just read their writings. They don't seem to have any sense of outrage. Their sovereignty is being violated, or citizenship doesn't mean anything. They have the idea that, well, anyone who comes here should have as much rights as the people who live here.
Right.
Well, nationality really doesn't matter anymore. We're a global society.
Right. And in the book, The Coming Anarchy by Joseph Wayne and Yvonne Moore, Joseph Wayne Smith, which was written in 2000, they lay out the conflict between globalism and nationalism. And, Hillary, I spoke about Hillary and her problems earlier on in the conversation, in my commentary at the beginning. And, she actually, during the campaign, was talking about open borders. She's all for it. Open borders.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
She gave that speech at the meeting of international bankers. Those are the people who give her sustenance,
Yeah, and so we can see with what's going on now with her and how, in other words, Hillary does not play by the rules, okay? Is that clear? I think that's clear now to everyone. Because
absolutely.
She doesn't play by the rules.
The Clinton crime family.
And
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, in the 90s, Clinton was almost ready to cut immigration right after Barbara Jordan came out with her report. But the word is Chinese contributors weren't happy about that at all. And so then he just turned against his statements in favor of reform and just wanted to keep the status quo going. But it was just, it was these contributors, who really made him apparently change his tune. Again, he was willing to cut back immigration.
Mm-hmm.
Made those statements. It was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all about the money for Hillary. I think that's clear, right?
That woman is just totally driven by ambition. I mean,
and greed. I think greed too.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny though. I mean, with all the money they have, I mean, you think that they would be satisfied. Maybe it's power.
No,
I think you.
I listen to Dick Morris, and he says it's just Hillary just wants money. Dick. You're familiar with Dick Morris?
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with him. Yeah.
Oh. I'm sorry. My engineer. I'm laughing because my engineer just spoke in my ear and it startled me. Do you know? But anyway, what I was going to say is that Dick Morris worked with the Clintons, in the White House. He knows them intimately. In fact, he went to law school with Hillary and Bill. So he knows them intimately. And this is why I love to watch his channel. It's so informative. And so I want to encourage my listeners to go to Dick Morris's channel and listen to the information that he gives regarding all of this corruption that is going on with the Clintons. It's important to know this stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it just spills off into policies such as immigration too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Hillary was all for immigration. She was running last year again. I mean, the left-wing Democrats want a powerful voting bloc, just as Robert Kramer laid out in his book, How Progressives Can Win. They just want to flood the country with as many people as possible who have really no understanding of America, poor people, and they can use them as electoral cannon fodder to keep complete control of the United States. And the thing is, I mean, they've done that in California. I mean, California was once the land of Ronald Reagan. Now the Democrats, the radical left-wing Democrats, have a complete and total grip on that state. I don't think they're ever going to give that up. Okay,
we're going to take a break. Mr. Vinson, are you open to taking phone calls?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to open up the phone lines when we come back. It's 866-870-5752. That's 866-870-5752. I like to play Dreamers because, we're going to talk about the Dreamers when we come back, and we're going to open up the phone lines. We'll be right back.
Nothing but a dreamer. Can you put your hands in your head? Oh no. I said, oh.
Are you a local business owner? Are you interested in increasing customer counts and store traffic or increasing traffic to your website? If you answered yes, then you need to advertise on the Naked Truth Report. For more information on how to become a sponsor, please reach out to RJ Beaton at 818-517-KRLA. That's 818-517-5752. Or email us at rj@krla870.com. That's rj@krla870.com. Kathleen Wells, the host of the Naked Truth Report, wants to hear from you. Just like our borders, the phone lines, well, they're wide open. Call in at 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. 866-870-KRLA.
The elected officials refuse to address the problem. The black elected officials refuse to address the problem. My own congressman refuses to address the problem. And I think the problem is black folks see all minorities as allies. And this is not the case. These people are not here for our common good. They're here for their own good. Where I don't have any ill will towards anybody, I also want to look out for my race. I'm a black American. I've never used a hyphen, but I will refuse to turn my back on my race and see what's going on in South Central to my people and let these people come in here and just take over. I'm not going to sit back and watch it. And I think it's a terrible thing, a horrendous thing for anybody to see this going on and say, well, he's a minority like me, so I won't speak up. I don't care where he comes from. The key to this whole thing is stop the denial, stop the alliances of In other words, he's a minority like me, so I can't speak up against him. If this was white folks committing these lynchings to us in South Central, what's going on, there would be an outrage in this country. We have had firebombs thrown through windows. We have had people's cars burned in the driveway because they happened to move into the wrong communities. We had a lady who moved to East LA, came to the state from the South, not knowing what East LA was. It was an all-Hispanic community. She wasn't there one day. We had another man who was burned out of his house in Torrance last year. We had 5 murders in Hawaiian Gardens just because the people were black. This would not be tolerated if this was white on black crime. But the fact that these people come here, and it's the numbers, sir. It's the numbers. They come here in the numbers. They build up the Hispanic community, and they get this sense of power against us. And there are race riots in the schools every day in Los Angeles. It never makes the media. The black kids are being run out of the schools every day and told to go back to Africa. It never makes the media. We are having people who are being discriminated against on every avenue of society, economic, schools, even in our prisons now. They have drawn lines, and our prisoners in California are being beat and harassed and raped by Hispanic gang members who recently arrived here because of the numbers. My answer to you, sir, would be we don't need any new laws. Enforce the ones we got.
Yeah, that was the late, great Terry Anderson, John. I played it as a tribute to you since, you know, you had a nice rapport relationship with Mr. Anderson.
That was vintage Terry.
Yeah.
He was outstanding speaker, orator. I mean, really impressive.
On point, and it was very moving and compelling, and I think that a lot of people I want people to hear it because a lot of people haven't heard that. So, as I said, I'm opening up the phone lines if you'd like to call in and speak to Mr. Vinson. The number is 866-870-5752. That's 866-870-5752. So talk to me about how overpopulation, because I know that you've written articles for CAPS about with your concern for conservation, immigration's impact on conservation. So talk to us about how overpopulation makes us vulnerable.
Well, you're always hearing from the immigration supporters how wonderful it is. Well, let's take California. You know, it's a state with the highest number of immigrants, the highest percentage of immigrants. Now, since 1965, when mass immigration started kicking in, have things gotten better in California or worse? Well, one area we can talk about is crowding. You know, back in 1965, California wasn't nearly as crowded as it is now, but thanks to mass immigration, you have just almost a human anthill there in Southern California. And living in such a situation is just not pleasant. I live in a rural area, and I just love it here. Wide open spaces, clean air, beautiful vistas. I went to Washington recently. That's where I saw you. And I had to drive around the D.C. area, and it was just a horrible experience. I mean, just people everywhere, just crowded together. I mean, do we want the whole country to be like this? I mean, I don't. I mean, one of our cherished American points of identity is having wide open spaces. And, you know, if we're just jam-packed with people, we're going to lose that. Immigration is the main force driving population growth. The thing is, we have, you know, what now, 327 million Americans, and do we really need that many more? Do we need to keep going up to 500 million and maybe sometime down the line even close to 1 billion? Do we want to end up like the Chinese, just living cheek to jowl in horribly polluted cities? I don't think so. And
in fact, California's population, we're the most populous state in the nation. We had 38 million in 2014. And if we keep going at this projected rate, we will be at 53 million by 2060. Can you imagine?
I mean, it was just really a shock to me to be on a freeway in Los Angeles, and I was out there, this was about 25 years ago. I mean, it was just as far as the eye could see, bumper to bumper traffic. I mean, who wants to live in that?
Oh, it's miserable. And this is Sunday evening and there's traffic on the freeway for me to drive home. Can you imagine? Sunday evening traffic.
Sunday evening, yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, it's like traffic constantly. Well, let's take a phone call from Pat now. Pat from Sunland. Hi, Pat. What do you have to say?
Well, I want to say thank you a million times for playing the old tapes of Terry Anderson. I wish you would do this every week, play some of them, and go back and get George Putnam's tapes and play those, because in this whole area up here, we used to have rallies up here. George Putnam was there, Terry Anderson was there, Barbara Coe was there. These big rallies on this anti-immigration issue. But when I heard you do that, I said, thank God, I've been praying for this, and I didn't know that they let his tapes be out there to be heard.
Well, I will play more. But
every week do it, because I'm going to call everybody I know up here to really get them to start listening to you. Because we need this. We need this, believe me.
Okay, I will do it.
Yes.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, that's it? Okay, I thought you had don't you have a question for John?
No, honey, I've had a million questions the last 30, 40 years. I've lived with the beginning of the illegals on the corners out here urinating on my property, defecating all over the place, with the food vendors, with the chickens, and on and on and on and on and on. And I'm getting too old for this. But you should keep this up, because maybe we get something going again up here with some rallies and things with people, because we used to have tons and tons and tons of people come to these rallies. But there was George Putnam and Ray Bream, but Terry Anderson with his farmer's overalls. I don't know. He always had his farmer overalls on. But anyway, he was quite a voice. And he got started, I don't know if you know or not, but listening to George Putnam.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day he called in, and from there he got a spinoff with the radio show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pat. I appreciate it. So I will play more of Terry Anderson. We all appreciate Terry Anderson. So, I've learned a lot from listening to his videos, which are on YouTube. So let me ask you, John, tell me, how do you feel about Trump's RAISE Act? And where do you think it's going to go?
Well, I love it. It would cut, over a 10-year period, it would cut legal immigration in half. And I think this is absolutely necessary. I mean, we have been gorging on immigration now for, more than, it's going on 50 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Now is the time for a diet. Let's cut it back a little bit. And it's not going to harm us. I mean, I think around 1980 we had about half of what we have now. And the country wasn't in dire straits. We were doing fine. It's almost funny reading some of these economists talking about, if we cut immigration in half, it will destroy our economy and all this other crazy chicken little stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. Again, I mean, we had around 1980, I think, we had about 500,000 a year. I think it actually should go lower than that. Still, I mean, that would be a good start. But back in 1980, I mean, we weren't in dire economic straits at all. I mean, in many ways, the economy was better. I mean, the middle class was better off back then, I think.
Well, I just want to emphasize how we have been betrayed. I know you had a video on your website called American Labor Betrayed, but the American people, not just labor. And this whole thing that is what is going on with Hillary Clinton and this Russia scandal, she has betrayed the principles of democracy by paying for dirt on her political appointment merely because she wants to win at all costs. She has betrayed the principle. And I think many of the politicians, if not most, have betrayed the American people. And immigration is an example of that, because it is, if we continue at this rate, it's unsustainable. I was watching one of the videos that you had on your website, and they said, because of urban sprawl and man's actions and behaviors, that you see the extinction of natural species. For instance, they said the California grizzly became extinct because of man's impact and interaction with the grizzly. And you can see the things going on like that right now, urban sprawl, you know, and how the natural habitat is having just too many people on the planet is not a good thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
You wonder why doesn't the Sierra Club take up this issue and endorse immigration control? You know, back in the 80s, they mentioned this as an important issue in terms of protecting the environment. But you know that they switched, and you know why they switched. There was a man named Norman Gelbaum who told their leadership that they would get no more money from him if they raised immigration as an issue, and he gave them huge sums of money. You know, and so they didn't want to cut off that spigot of cash, so they don't talk about immigration anymore.
So basically everything comes down to the money then.
Yes, you know, as this one preacher used to say, it's the money, honey.
And that's all that matters. It's all about the money, right?
Unfortunately, I mean, greed is a terrible thing. I mean, again, you know, politicians won't stop following the lead of greed until there are enough angry people stand up against them. You know, we stopped amnesty back in 2007. George W. Bush was doing everything possible to railroad it through, but the people just got outraged by it. We had a man in Washington who was in the office of one of the congressmen when this debate was going on. He said the phone lines going into Congress were about to melt down from all the angry calls they were getting from people about the amnesty. Well, you know, we just have to keep on doing that.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, and this is why I think what was appealing to Trump supporters was the fact that he was he didn't need money from from outside influences, and he was non-establishment.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was the appeal, that he wasn't
buy him off.
Yeah, he was self-sustained by his own income, and he wasn't bought and paid for by lobbyists. And so this is the appeal. But for some reason, this hasn't dawned on Democrats. They don't get it. They think that, well, I don't know if they believe it, but Hillary has led them to believe that the reason why Trump won was because of Russia's interference in our election. That's like silly. They're like,
it's absolutely laughable. I mean, they claim that WikiLeaks, at the behest of the Russians, put out some information against Hillary. Well, the thing is, the information was true. Nobody disputes that. You know, at the same time, the press was overwhelmingly in favor of Hillary. Mm-hmm. So, you know, whatever came out by WikiLeaks just offered a little bit of balance against the overwhelming media attack against Trump. And there's no proof that the Russians actually did it. I mean, this whole thing is just absurd.
Well, the guy, Julian Assange, says that, you know, Russia didn't influence him one way or the other. He had no interaction with Russia.
That's right.
He said that.
That's what he said, yes.
But, you know, and Democrats, they don't, you see, and this is another thing that I want to mention. You know, I used to be liberal. I probably mentioned this before. I used to be liberal. And in fact, I voted for Obama once. And, you know, voting for Trump was the first time I've ever voted Republican. And since I've gotten off of that Democratic plantation, as they say, since I've gotten out of the matrix, of the, you know, I'm open to new information. It's like I've been free. And so, you know, I now watch Fox, and it's like, my God, Tucker Carlson and Hannity are giving, you know, as they say, the devil is always in the details. And when you talk to a Democrat, they never know the details. They never know details. They know how to call you names and stuff like that, but they never know details. But Tucker Carlson and Hannity are going over so many details regarding this whole Russia, Hillary, and Uranium One issue. And it's actually refreshing, you know?
But did the Democrats ever get upset about Mexican meddling in our affairs? I mean, they're...
Right.
setting up all these consulates in the U.S. and passing out these matricula cards and condemning our efforts to control our border. I mean, do they ever get concerned about that meddling? No.
No, they never. And in fact, Vicente Fox, I think, when the campaign was going on, he had some choice words for Trump. You know, like, why should we care what he thinks, right?
Really?
Well, you know, I really appreciate you being my guest today. And one thing that I wanted you to mention to listeners is, what can individuals do to promote immigration reform?
Well, inform yourself about what's going on. Don't listen to what the establishment media say. I mean, research for yourself. Then take this information, pass it on to your friends and family members, and encourage them to follow your example, which is to get in touch with your elected officials and pass this information on to them and tell them what you want done. I mean, that's the most basic thing you can accomplish, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then what are the ethical arguments for immigration reform? Because, you know, the liberals use ethical and moral issues to say, oh, you know, the dreamers have a dream. They were brought here when they were kids, you know, moral and ethical reasons why. What are the ethical reasons for immigration reform? I think we've touched on a few, like conservation.
Well, it's ethical to have a country run by the rule of law. Otherwise, you're going to have chaos and anarchy. I mean, that's anyone who wants to move in that direction is not a very good person, I don't think. I think it's ethical and moral to have an immigration system that promotes assimilation so that people can learn to get along with each other. Because if you have what we have now, you're going to have all these different racial, ethnic, and religious blocks that won't understand each other, won't like each other, that will constantly go at each other's throats. And in that situation, you'll have people who will say, well, give us the power to control all of this, and we'll bring peace again. I mean, that's the left-wing strategy, basically. I mean, they want to promote disorder and so they can impose their order on society.
And, you know, that's very true. And that's something that Dr. Claude Anderson talked about. He says you're going to have blacks against Asians, blacks against Hispanics, blacks against poor whites. And it's like, black people can't fight all these groups. There's no way that we can compete in that kind of environment when we're like, oh, and then blacks against Arabs, you know, because, you know, Obama in 2016 made Arab a new race. You did realize that, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Can you imagine? So we're going to have like us, you know, my group fighting against everyone, and we're going to be at the bottom. Can you imagine? And we've been here 400 years. Can you imagine?
I mean, and these left-wingers are always talking about how much they love black folks. Well, I don't think they really
No.
do.
Well, you know they don't. Not really, right? It's just a joke, right? Because they've never. What have they done? You can look at any urban city. 5 decades of black folks loyally voting for Democrat, and look at any urban city. Look at them. The proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Well, just think of it this way. I mean, does it help the Democrats to have people who are moving up economically and supporting themselves? And does that help the Democrats as they exist now? I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, so it's in their interest to keep people poor, ignorant, and bitter. I mean, people like that make good Democrats as we conceive of Democrats now.
Right. And you know, because you have something always to complain about. That's something that I've said. I said, all you have to do is look at Black America, and you see that Democrats, despite voting for them loyally for 5 decades, you see that we are, most of us, listen, our schools are at bottom. Most of us, will be 228 years for us to catch up with the average white family, and we'll be at zero median wealth by 2053, right? We only have 25% two-parent families. When back in the 60s during Jim Crow, we had 87% two-parent families. We only have 7% of businesses. You know, back during Jim Crow, we had 40% of our businesses. So we're actually, Black America is actually regressing. And
Absolutely.
yet, yeah. And when you turn on Washington Journal and you hear these folks calling in, I can tell when someone's Black by their tone and what they say, the content, and also their tone. These Black men, they're just so, they're like, it's like Mad Day for Trump. You know, they're bashing Trump left and right. It's so illogical. It's so illogical. And in fact, I think this is what Democrats have done to most Black folks. They've made them illogical. Do you know?
Well, yeah,
I mean, maybe it's not for you to say, but maybe it's not for you to say, but I can say it, you know.
Well, but the thing is, I mean, they're doing this to the entire population. I mean, with our educational system, you know, we have the public fool system, as I call it, and you know, people don't learn how to read and think anymore. I mean, understanding the California schools, they have mandatory gay studies. Well, I mean, how is that a good thing for teaching people how to rise up the economic ladder? I mean,
and mandatory gay studies, they have that. So yeah. It's all very bad, and it's unfortunate, right?
Very unfortunate. And you know, the thing is, it's not going to stop until we stop it.
Well, let's hope. I really appreciate Trump's. I believe in building the wall, and I think that will be, you know, basically he's saying, you know, he has to get something to give the dreamers to give the dreamers what they want, and we definitely will get the wall. So, you know, we're down to 1 minute, and I want to thank you for being a guest on my show, Mr. Vinson, and I want to encourage people to go to your website, which is the American Immigration Control Foundation. Thank you, Mr. Vinson, for being a guest on my show.
My pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye. So I want to send out, you know, I'd like to end the show with a love song to my listeners with deep roots in America and deep roots in California and deep roots in Los Angeles. This is my love song to you. Also, I want to encourage folks to go to my YouTube channel, which is the Naked Truth Report YouTube channel. Please go to that YouTube channel and subscribe, and also go to the Naked Truth Report Facebook page. So my love song for folks with deep roots in America, this is for you. Thank you for listening.
The Naked Truth Report was sponsored by Kathleen Wells on AM 870, The Answer.